we begin with our circular wimple or collar piece, wrong side out if applicable. And we're going to sew around the edges first. I have my machine set on 3 here for length and medium width, about 2 or 3 on my machine, up to 5. So let's begin. Yes, we want to keep the rest of the cloth out here on the outside of the machine. Alright. Just apply a little bit of pressure since we're doing a circle, and don't pull too hard. Pinning it is not always necessary, but I did it this time. But you may have to just remove a few when you go along the way. Now it doesn't have to line up perfectly though. Whatever you do, make sure both pieces are perfectly flat. No wrinkles or crimps or folds of any kind. Now, as you can see, the machine usually pulls it through itself, and I'm just using my hands to guide the curve. I'm not pushing or pulling. You don't have to go all the way to the end, because that's going to be, because if you do, you're going to have to snip it open a little bit to fold it over. So just stop finger space before the end. Alright, when it's done, as with any project, make sure this little hook is out first. Pull it out carefully and snip it off. Now we're going to make sure all the pins are out. And then we'll just turn the piece inside out. Another pin. Just start at one end and just move your hand carefully throughout the piece until it turns itself inside out, kind of like flipping a pizza dough, I guess. Alright, and then, as before, we begin with the rest of it outside with the machine on the same settings, and just with your fingers, just make sure the seam you just sewed is all the way out to the end. Yes. Now, again, we're going to start a little bit inward. So just we're going to flatten it out as we go along. And again, we're just guiding it. We're not pushing or pulling. Oh, if you do pull on it too hard, you'll get a ripple effect. You don't want that. We flatten it out as we go.
What?
straighten it out as usual in the back, but ready to go too far. Alright, and again we're going to stop just a little bit before the end. Alright, should be good enough. Right. And see, we have a little bit of space left. Then we're going to step that off, and we're done with the first stage rather. Attaching the neckband to the head hole. We are attaching a straight piece of fabric to a circle. You will have to use lots of pins. Alright, now try to make the neckband one piece if you can. Unfortunately, I ran out of material, so I had to make it in two pieces. Hopefully it won't be noticed since it's worn under the veil. Alright, you take the back corner, either side really, it doesn't really matter in or out, and corners together. Of course, it doesn't really matter which, I don't think it matters at least. And start pinning like every 2 or 3 inches, I think. Alright, first pin, make sure it's corner to corner. Yeah. Now the curved piece is going to straighten out a little bit. That should help, and likewise, just every 2 or 3 inches, insert a pin. Yes. Okay, and we continue to straighten out the round piece and pin the neckband to it. I don't think it really matters what size. Let's see, we're almost in the middle. Okay, when I get to the middle, I put a larger or different color pin, so that way I know I'm halfway through. There we go. And continue to pin. Let's see. It doesn't matter at this point what angle, but so just continue to pin it. Yeah, every 2 or 3 inches as always. And likewise, make sure it manages to flatten out at the end. And you just pin it up there. Yeah. Now that we have the fabric all pinned, I recommend leaving the majority of it outside the machine as usual. You can take off the front box if needed. Let's see how it works with this stuff. Alright. I have my length on a 2 and width in the middle. So far so good. Alright. Okay, let's put the width a little more toward the center. That's at the width on 1 now. That way, so the under one it curves out, this is more likely to make sure it sews through both layers. Make sure you hold down the fabric this time though, so the layers stay flush, because they won't necessarily do it this time. Here's our colored pins, so we're about halfway there. Pull it out just before. If possible, pull out the needles first, or this happens. Okay. Reach the end, there's no need to go back because you're probably going to have to undo it a little bit and go to fold it inward. Alright, we've reached the end. Pull it out now. I recommend snipping it off rather than bringing it up here. There we go. Warm enough? Yeah. Medium. Okay. Now, again, since it's a cylindrical shape, or foreshortened at least, what you might want to do, okay, first make sure they're even, more or less. You fold over, you can flatten it out, the top corner of it, fold it inward about 1/4 of an inch, and iron that. Yes. That'll help it. You're going to pin it too, by the way, but ironing it will help it keep, so you don't have to mess with it too much. Oh yeah, always be careful with the iron. So, especially when working with white material. Okay. Now mine's on medium. So, you've seen on TV, you leave an iron somewhere, it makes a burn stain. So, that's one thing to be careful about. Alright, now the other side. I don't recommend doing both layers at once with an irregular shaped object. Alright, good, yeah. Off, good. Unplug. Good. Careful, it's still hot. Alright, so set this aside. Don't just turn it off. Unplug it. Take our pins here. Now this piece, you're just gonna, if it's all the way done, you just undo it like 1/4 of an inch, or 1/2 an inch, and you fold it inward. Just a little bit more maybe, but not too much. Alright, about there ought to do it. Alright, you take a pin with thick fabric. I use a long pin. No, it wasn't thick at first, but when it's up to 8 layers, it can get that way. And you come up, and likewise about, you also fold it in 1/2 an inch. You don't really have to iron this part, but you can if you want. Alright, all the way up here. Yeah. In fact, it might not be recommended, but in fact, I don't recommend it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to just go ahead and iron this even with the pins inside. Might have just enough heat left to do it. Always be careful with an iron. This one's unplugged, but it still has some heat left in it. Alright. Yeah. You should see my mask making video. Alright. Yeah, that ought to do it. And all the way up till you get to the top. Alright, gotten to the top. Okay, it's not quite even, but it's not. Well, you should try to make sure they're even, but if they're not, just fold one down a little bit more. Or, yeah, I kind of feel like you should. That, make sure they're together, and do pin it. Just like every 2 or 3 inches. If you already ironed it, you shouldn't have too many problems staying put. Yeah, I like to do just like a hand width, maybe. Make sure there are no stray threads. When you get to the end, just fold it inward and over as best you can. Okay, now that we have it all pinned up right here, it's all fitting even, but we can leave the last part of it open for right now. Before you sew it up together, make a square out here for the closure tab. I'm going to use Velcro on this one. I think you can make a square. What I do is I just use the leftover circle that I cut out from the neck hole of one of these. Alright, we're almost ready to put it together here. Uh-oh, I put the pins the wrong way. It's going to be a little harder to pull them out, but we'll try. Alright. Make sure the seams are always flat. You know what? This isn't much fabric. It can go in this way. Still make sure everything's flat. Put the width all the way to the end. Be careful with the needle. Just do a hand first with the side wheel. Oh, pin can push through out too. Then go back a little bit. Pull out the needle and keep the pin cushion here for that. Yes. Next needle.
And so on.
If it's thick, I like to go over it one more time. Oh, forgot one. Okay. Now, again, make sure the fabric edges are level. Almost to the end. You can take out the pin now. Watch out for multiple needles. And go back a little bit. Now forward again. With the needle still in there, pick up the foot and rotate the fabric. Like so. The seam ripper has more than one use to push the fabric through. Whatever you do, don't put your finger or thumb, let alone this little excess skin, under the foot. So the underside here, some of them. Always Just make sure it's going through both layers of fabric. Okay, I got a little ahead of myself here. For one side of this, you sew it up and you put a little square in here first, and that's for your Velcro if you choose to close it this way. Before you adhere the Velcro on it, this is sticky back Velcro, or you can do sew-on Velcro, either one. Make sure you use it properly though. Take both sides to make sure it's on the right side. When you lay it flat, like so, make sure the Velcro is on the same side and you have a positive and a negative side. Or you can sew ties on it, but I don't really do that. So here's how to finish it. And here it is complete.